is a two-part. It's more involved this week. As I've said, the course gets more difficult as it progresses, or at least the assignments do, and the point value is more. So for week 3, delivering negative messages, make sure you're writing an initial draft and going through and very carefully revising, keeping the course text in mind. Walk back through the steps in chapter 1 that to review things on audience awareness. And as you respond to the assignment, remember to take into account the specific parts of the negative message outlined in our chapter and our reading this week on negative messages. So for the first part of the assignment, you're reviewing a draft of a memo written by your boss, John Connors. So John Connors owns Best Sports Outdoor Gear, and he's written this memo. It's an internal memo, because we're remembering that memos are internal documents frequently, or most of the time, 99% of the time. So the memo is going to be sent to all of John Connors' employees at the store, and it's going to outline how they can educate customers who have purchased a specific garment. The garment is called the H2O Protect Tee. So he's asking you, you're an employee that he's asked to review the rough draft, evaluate its effectiveness, and make necessary changes. So you want to use your knowledge of the things we've been reading about so far: tone, audience, effective sentences, and good memo design, remembering that visual appeal is a huge part of memo design. And you want to reconstruct this memo for your boss, John Connors. And you want to make sure that you're reiterating this information as clearly, concisely, and correctly as possible, so that the employees of the store know how to educate the buyer on the product's use. These are, remember this, it'll look like to the employees that John Connors is the author, and so you want to make sure you're creating goodwill. You want to make sure that these employees continue to like their boss and feel valued at work. And you also want to keep in mind that the employee's time is John Connors' money. So again, we're very aware of making sure we're getting this information across as concisely as possible, so that the employees can sort of glance at this memo and figure out what they need to do. As part of the instructions, you want to keep in mind that Mr. Connors is not a good writer. So you want to avoid his sentence structure often, his phrasing. And again, he's got these big block paragraphs. So you probably want to break them up into bullet points or bold headings, something that's going to make it pretty easy for the employees to glance at the memo and see what they need to do. So I'm going to show you an example of this memo in just a second, so that you have sort of a sense of what your major assignment 3 should look like. The second part of your assignment involves addressing a customer complaint. So I've given you a letter from a customer, Steve Thompson, who's written Mr. Connors to complain about his jacket. So your job is to write a polite refusal of the refund for the jacket, and or convince the customer that he simply did not use the jacket correctly. So that you can say something, this element up here, your reasons for your refusal of the refund can involve the fact that company's policy dictates no refunds or exchanges after 30 days. But we've got some alternatives built into the assignment here. You can exchange the jacket for Mr. Thompson if it is defective, or you can offer a discount on further purchases. So here's the letter from the customer, Steve Thompson, and you're going to refuse his request to return the jacket. Okay, so really quickly, this is an example memo written by students in the past, and we just want to quickly review. This was a draft. So again, you want to make sure, write a draft and then go back and think about revision. Think about things like eliminating wordiness. Can you present the information more clearly and effectively? So in our example memo here, we've done a nice job with sort of the heading for the memo. We know it's to the Best Sports Outdoor Gear staff, so it's going to go to all Mr. Connors employees. We probably want that word staff in capitals. We know it's from John Connors, the business owner of Best Sports Outdoor Gear. The subject line, pointers on the H2O Protect Tee for ensuring customer satisfaction. In revision, this student likely wants to work on making the subject line a bit more concise. Remember, you always want a subject line that announces the main point of your document, whether it's a memo or a letter. However, the way you structure that and set it up might be a bit different, and you always want to work on brevity. So make sure it's a quick little announcement so that when the reader glances at the memo, they can get a sense of what it's about. So maybe we don't need the H2O Protect Tee part. Maybe we could just call this procedures for ensuring customer satisfaction or something to that effect. You want to tinker with your subject line always to make sure that it's, again, giving your reader a snapshot of the main point pretty briefly. Okay, so the student started the memo, Dear All. As you're already aware, we've been selling the H2O Protect T product line. This first line seems like a real missed opportunity to generate goodwill with the employees. Clearly, the employees are behind the really stellar sales of this product. So this is an opportunity for the owner of the company to potentially thank the employees for their hard work. And then sort of build in a however. We've been receiving complaints about this product. So the student here had great instincts as far as using bullet points to make sure the employees can glance at this memo and figure out what to do. But it's almost like we've overused the bullet points here because there's so many of them. So we want to maybe think about a different way we can structure this. The student author says, in order to ensure customers are fully satisfied with the products, we want to make sure that they are informed of the following. So maybe instead, to soften this, to deliver goodwill, we could say one way to ensure customer satisfaction is to please ensure that customers are informed of the following information. We want to always, what we've been reading about, what we read about last week in our revision strategies chapter, is that anytime you include a list in a professional document, or really in any document, you want that list to appear in parallel. You want to use parallel structure. So all of the words that begin the items in the list should appear in the same form. That's not happening in this case. Most feelings customers can. Instead, we probably want to set this up so we've got basically make this active. We could do something like, and we also want to, again, work on brevity. So maybe just keep this short. The product is not 100% waterproof. The fabric is highly tested and undergoes strenuous quality checks. This maybe is one bullet point. Maybe we could say something like, however, the fabric is highly tested and undergoes strenuous quality checks. So we're basically telling our employees that we don't want to mislead the customers. It's not waterproof, but it is a good product and it undergoes quality checks. Feelings of cold or dampness are not the result of leaks, but sweat. So we probably want to think about how we structure that. We don't know that that's the case all of the time. Maybe there's some instances where the product is in fact defective. Customers can address this problem by using the ventilation zippers, wearing moisture wicking clothes underneath, and layering the clothing. So this might be an instance where maybe we eliminate these bullet points or structure this a different way. And maybe we keep these bullet points because these seem like the tips we really want to get across to our customers to ensure full performance. And again, here we want probably some directive language, some verbs. So we could do something like, first we've got sort of a typo here. We clearly want to fix and revision an extra bullet point that's just floating out there. So we've got ensure here and ensure twice. We probably don't want that. Maybe we can cut some of this language and just say zip. And then we could make this a bit more directive. We can say something like wear, minimal, to avoid overheating, sweating, and again, we want our list to be parallel, giving the impression that the gear leaks. So maybe in this one we could just say avoid cotton material underneath the gear, and make sure Protect T is not is put on before getting wet. So the wording there is sort of strange. We probably want to work on that wording a little bit. Make sure other clothing is dry before donning the H2O Protect T or something like that, or putting it on. But again, the wording's sort of wonky. But at least our list here is now in parallel structure. Make, avoid, wear, zip, ensure, all active, and pretty concise. But again, we're tinkering with the wording. So In professional writing, we're usually working on producing short, concise documents, but that makes our word choice and our sentence structure all the more important. And it's really vital that you spend time tinkering with that in revision. So again, as we learned in our reading last week, drafting the document is only about a third of the process, and revision is at least a third of the process. So your success in this class is going to really come in this revision stage, tinkering with your wording, making sure you've got parallel structure, making sure you're saying things as concisely as possible. So that's an example of the first part of your assignment here and some strategies for tinkering with it a little bit to present the information as clearly and concisely as possible. And then again, your second part is involving an outgoing letter. So one thing I want to note here quickly is that in your letterhead, you're going to have the name and contact information likely for John Connors. So in order to avoid duplicating effort in an outgoing letter, if you have your credentials and your contact information in the letterhead, you may not necessarily need it in the formal sign-off. So that's sort of a confusing point in professional writing sometimes. But you want to make sure your credentials, your contact information is clearly reflected either in your letterhead or in your sign-off in a professional letter. If you have any questions or concerns, as always, feel free to email me or contact me via phone, and we can make sure we set up a time when I can sit down with you if that is helpful at all. Best of luck on the week 3 assignment, and feel free to get in touch with me.